Alright, hey Hunters, Halozu here, back for another One D&D playtest deal. So, shall we begin? This time we're going over the quote-unquote priest classes, which are basically just support classes. Supposedly. But, so let's begin with the Cleric. So, because we're getting into the first classes that are repeats from a previous one, I do have the three Unearthed Arcana, Druid and Paladin. I had to open just drive normally, so that's why it's there. We have Cleric and then the expert classes, which we'll go over next time. But for Cleric itself, let us begin. So, Divine Order, previously Holy Order, moved from second to first, and the Thaumaturge option has just been changed to be Thaumaturge and Scholar options. Preparation is no longer for spells is no longer spell slot based, which I think. No. Yeah, it used to be just spells prepared, so it was tied to spell slots specifically. So, I mean, it's fine either way, in my opinion. I do. It's like, both work, to be honest, but. So you do start with more spells prepared, but I think ultimately you actually get less, maybe? I think actually you just get more. But Channel Divinity returned to second level and increases with Cleric level and isn't proficiency bonus based. That was a change that happened in Druid and Paladin, where they're like, it's not going to be proficiency bonus based, mostly because it made multiclassing a bit too good. And you were going to use with a short rest, which I think. Yeah, you just get proficiency bonus and they come back with a long rest. Which, yeah, it sucks. It sucked, but I think everything else actually didn't change with Channel Divinity. Subclass starts at third level, but the rest of the progression is similar to 2014, with an exception. So, Smite Undead now uses Wisdom modifier rather than proficiency bonus, and it clarifies that it doesn't end turn on the Undead, so just a clarification with the second part. And the Wisdom, it's, yeah, like that's your main stat, so why wouldn't you use it? Blessed Strikes is now Divine Striker, Potent Spellcasting, which I think is actually the same change as before, except it was at 7th level. Was it still at 7th? Yeah, it's still at 7th, but so it's a level earlier. And there's also Commune, which is a new 9th level feature, which I don't think was here. Oh yeah, because you got the second Holy Order. Granted, Holy Order worked a bit differently, which we'll go over in a moment. And then Improved Blessed Strikes, which is a new thing, because I think... Well, I think they just upgraded Blessed Strikes. So... Oh, no, they don't. They didn't. Yeah, it was kind of a... That's kind of weird, actually, looking back at it. Because Divine Strike used to upgrade, but oh well. Divine Intervention and Greater Divine Intervention are changed to be reliable. And then Greater Divine Intervention is back to 20th level. So, and Epic Boons are gone. For now, at least. They're coming back in a different way, is what we've been told. Which I think it's just like at 20th level you get an Epic Boon. Which, yeah, I much prefer it that way. So then we go over to first level with Divine Order. So there's only Protector and Thaumaturge. But let's be honest, going back, Scholar, you are only ever picking that as the second Holy Order. Like, and even then, it's still technically the worst option, especially if you're Protector first, because why wouldn't you get the cantrip? Like, you get an extra cantrip, so yeah. And that gave you the Channel Divinity on a short rest back, which, yeah, I'm glad that's just a base thing now again, rather than being kind of stingy with it. But yeah, the Holy Order first pass, Scholar was kind of useless. Protector was just fine, as it is. And it definitely is going to help Forge Domain, because that was actually the one problem I had with Forge, was it didn't get martial weapons, or at least the hammers. So that's going to be nice to have that option of more spells or better weapons and armor. And in this version, those are the only two options. It's just Protector, same as before. They got it right the first time. And Thaumaturge, you gain extra cantrip, and you get plus wisdom to religion checks. Second part, I think I would actually rather have the extra skill, but then conversely, I would just move plus whiz. I would move the religion bonus to just baseline as a thing clerics just get for free as a cleric, but change it to be, it just changes the modifier to wisdom rather than intelligence. So you don't get both like it does here. Instead, you just get wisdom or intelligence for religion checks, which would be fine. Spells and spell casting, unchanged, doesn't matter. Moving on. Channel Divinity. I think it's actually not changed at all between versions. It's just Divine Spark is still here as a new option since you don't have your domain yet, so you get a new generic one, which I do think, like, basically you just choose another creature, either heal 1d8 plus whiz HP, or deal 1d8 plus wisdom damage to a creature. And it's Necrotic or Radiant, which I think was how it worked before. No, it was just Radiant, actually, which I do hope they bring back the idea that there's alternate damage types you can be associated with on a cleric in the future, where any subclass that had a different damage type for your Divine Strike, such as Trickery, albeit that one matters less, Death, which actually doesn't matter. Basically, any that wasn't Necrotic or Radiant, have them able to get their alternate damage type, with some others also having the alternate option. But it's just a thing of, I do appreciate that they are adding Necrotic to it. So it's Necrotic or Radiant. And then it upgrades slightly after cantrips do. So at 7th level, it becomes 2d8. 13th, it's 3d8. 18th, it's 4d8. A part of me wishes they just made it scale with cantrips, honestly. I mean, especially if it's not going to be there ahead of cantrips by default. Because here it's like you spend a few levels behind. Especially later, if you're going down the spellcaster route, then it'll actually be behind. Not just like it's kind of on par, because after you get potent spellcasting, it's just like, yeah, it's worse for a few levels. Uh, which definitely, at least for the damage side, is bad. Like, I get that for the healing, it's okay, but for damage, it's like, I mean, and I guess it is half damage on if they succeed, but it still feels odd and kind of off to me that it's behind. I think was it still behind? Oh, it's D8's equal to your proficiency bonus, so that was actually better in my opinion. Because at the very least, it was ahead of cantrips. Yeah, it's... I mean, I guess the problem does arise when you get to late levels, when it's 5 and eventually 6, but... Yeah, that one ends up being a weird one. But, like, for the damage, it should be at least on par with cantrips, I think. But then turn undead as a magic action. You can turn undead creatures still. 30-foot range. Wisdom save. Frightened and incapacitated for 1 minute. And it ends early if a creature takes damage. You're incapacitated or die. So Destroy Undead was replaced by Smite Undead, which you can roll Wiz D8 and add the rolls together, and each undead that fails a save takes that much radiant damage, which doesn't end the effect. I do think this could be changeable, but at the same time, you usually want to deal radiant damage anyway, because undead are the most common to have necrotic resistance, and then also the most common to have radiant vulnerability, especially vampires. So, well, it would be nice if it worked the same way, where you can choose necrotic or radiant. You were choosing radiant anyway, so it's not bad. And then Blessed Strikes at 7th level. So you just choose Divine Strike or Potent Spellcasting. Divine Strike, D8 necrotic or radiant damage, once per turn. Pretty much the same as before, but you have only 2 choices now, which, once again, I hope they change. Albeit it was better than before, where it was just radiant. So I do like that they're moving to necrotic or radiant, where you've got the dark or light, rather than just, oh, you're flat up out radiant only. Ha ha ha. And it's potent spellcasting. It's potent spellcasting. You still add plus whiz to damage, which actually Blessed Strikes was it was just Blessed Strikes. I forgot that it was just Blessed Strikes from Tasha's, but the new change, I do like this, that it's a choice again, where you have to dedicate yourself to one or the other, which I think is cool. But I will say a possibility, which means this doesn't necessarily have to happen, but they could tie this back to Divine Order. Because let's be honest, you're going to choose the same one anyway, so I think ultimately it doesn't matter if they do or not, but it would be interesting if they made it where Blessed Strikes and Improved Blessed Strikes was tied back to Holy Order, where Protectors get Divine Strike, Thaumaturges get Potent Spellcasting. You're doing it anyway, but it's just a cool concept that's like, hey, you get to mix and match now. Though a quick critique is that by moving extra cantrips to Thaumaturge, you're now bound to divine spells, which not everyone is going to want. But 9th level, you always have Commune prepared. You rarely prepared it anyway, so yeah, it's nice to just, you always have Commune ready, so you can commune with your god, obviously. Divine Intervention, as a magic action, you cast a divine spell 5th level or lower that doesn't require a reaction. And you don't need material components for it, or a spell slot. And you can't do it again until the long rest. So, one thing even wizards themselves have noted, say goodbye to the diamond economy, because you can cast Raise Dead for free as an action. I'm just going to say right now, costed components, component costs should be there. Maybe have it halved if it's consumed, but and just have it where if it's a spell component that is consumed or directly used in the spell, then you have to have a component worth half the cost. So, like, if you need 1,000 gold piece diamond, you need a 500 gold piece diamond instead, where you still have to have the component. You still have to pay something for it. It's reduced, but you can't just cast Raise Dead once per day for free. Because that one kind of breaks the game a bit. So that one, I think, there's going to be a nerf, but with costed components. But it's cool. Like, everything else is cool about it. It's just the material component part is really overpowered. 14th level improved to Blessed Strikes. Divine Strikes is now 2d8 and potent spellcasting, because it didn't have an upgrade before. Basically, whenever you deal damage with divine cantrips, you can give vitality to yourself or another creature in 60 feet of yourself, granting them 2 times Wiz, temporary HP. I do wish this applied to all damaging spells you cast. Albeit maybe make it any direct damage spells, so it's not like lingering damage ones, like, I don't know, probably the 2 most overpowered spells in the game, Spirit Guardians and Spiritual Weapon. But I don't remember what they got at 14th level. And I think Divine Intervention was a bit weaker. Divine Intervention was, as an action, you get to roll percentage dice. You can't do it again for 2d6 days. And, yeah. So, they just made it reliable. And then, Greater Intervention, don't have to roll. Gains again for 2d4 days instead. 14th level was actually a subclass feature, and now 18th level is a subclass feature instead. Or 17th is. They don't get anything at 18th, actually. It's actually weird looking at it now, because they get nothing at 18th. Well, except the Channel Divinity use, but that's Channel Divinity use. So I do feel like they could have moved the subclass feature to 18th, so you actually get something there, since normally you don't get new spell slots at odd levels. In even levels, you do get features. Because before you get them at every even level, it's the only even level that you don't get anything. And 17th is also when you get 9th level spells, so you don't necessarily need a feature then, but... And then, of course, before, that was when you got Greater Divine Intervention. But now, it's at 20th level, and you can choose Wish as the spell you cast. And you can't use it for 2d4 long rest if you do that. And you're immune to the stress caused using Wish. Yeah, that's definitely a fun one, where it's like, yeah, you can just ask your god for a wish. It's like, boom, I give you your wish. So yeah, that's a fun one. Albeit, I'm not sure about immune to the stress for not casting a spell with Wish, but oh well. Life Domain! So, let's go to it. So, Domain spells. It includes first level spells again. Prayer of Healing was changed to Aid. So, before, let's go over to Domain spells. You didn't get first level spells. That was kind of dumb. But anyway, we get first level spells back. So Life Domain gets Bless and Cure Wounds, then Aid and Lesser Restoration. One quality of life thing I would like, though, please list them as separate parts. Like, maybe make it separate paragraphs or separate lines, so it's clear. Hey, these are your first level spells. These are your second level spells. So you know, oh yeah, they're separate levels. It's just a quality of life thing to be more clear about. Yeah, they're different. And before they actually removed Spiritual Weapon, which, to be fair, that was always a weird one, where you have Spiritual Weapon, which is an offensive spell that makes 0 sense to have as a cleric. So, yeah. Then Mass Healing Word, Revivify. Always good to have. Aura of Life, Death Ward. Not as great. But then Greater Restoration, Mass Cure Wounds. Both nice to have as well. So, Cure Wounds, though, I'd rather have Healing Word, but hey. At least I get more slots to prepare other spells in. And plus, it's not like I was preparing that anyway, but oh well. Though actually, I probably was, but mostly just for out-of-combat healing when I don't need Healing Word. But Healing Word is the emergency heal of Kings. Third level, Disciple of Life. They just changed the wording a bit, apparently. Which, yeah, it's the same feature. 2+ spell level, HP. Preserve Life is still the exact same. Channel Divinity. Actually, it's... so this actually got changed, which is a godsend, actually. And it's actually been moved back to 3rd level, which, yeah, looking back at it, what the hell, Wizards? That's just stupid. Yeah, but the previous one, like, you restore up to 5 times cleric level HP to any number of creatures 30 feet of you, but you can't heal above half HP. I'll be honest, while the old one was actually good, and it was definitely nice to have, like, don't get me wrong, it was great, it was good, but by far, it was the most, like, misused and misunderstood Channel Divinity I've ever seen. Like, I've seen multiple people play Life Cleric. Every time, they would forget you can't heal above half HP. It's the ultimate thing of, A, read your features right. Make sure you read your features, and B, some features just, oh my gosh, it's stupid sometimes. But this one, you now can cast, expend a number of channel divinities equal to the level of a spell, and to cast an abjuration spell from the divine list. And it is prepared. So, I A part of me thinks they should just say prepared or from the divine list. But basically, you can expend a channel divinity to cast any abjuration spell, which it's just automatically the best one. So, though unfortunately, this doesn't trigger Disciple of Life. And do note that healing spells are actually part of abjuration now. They did change that a while ago, but all the healing spells were now abjurations, so I mean, it's not a surprise that they got changed again. I think at this point they've been just about every spell school except enchantment, illusion, and divination. I don't know if they've been transmutation before, but they absolutely may have been transmutation spells. They're originally necromancy. They were evocation in 5th edition. I think they've been conjuration before as well. It's just transmutation is the one I'm not sure about, but now they're abjurations, and here, yeah, you can cast an abjuration with channel divinity uses instead, which I think is fine. So basically, you can always have a healing word or shield of faith ready to cast after a short rest, which, yeah, it's good. I do wish it worked with Disciple of Life, though. That's my one critique, is because Disciple of Life says with a spell slot, it doesn't trigger with Preserve Life. I think it should. Well, it does mean... and then also Blessed Healer, but I would basically just say... Well, actually it says create a spell slot, so... Yeah, it does actually work. I would just be more explicit that it does kind of work with that. It's kind of weird, but I guess it does. But Blessed Healer, I think, is exactly the same. Yeah, it just says it's clear. Divine Strike has been removed, so... That is the one exception with it, where it is what it was in the Player's Handbook in 2014, but Divine Strike is just removed and moved to the base class, which honestly I'm fine with. It's just I wish that... I'm hoping that classes that previously had a damage type that wasn't Necrotic or Radiant get a way of doing that damage type with Divine Strike now. Or replacing any Radiant damage, Necrotic or Radiant they do with that damage type. Then 17th level, Supreme Healing. It's almost the exact same thing, except it calls out Channel Divinity. Which means... Divine Spark, go... So you can change the Divine Spark into, I believe, 8 times 4... 32, right? Yeah, 32 plus 5 is 37 HP with 1 Divine Spark. Which, granted, is just better than Preserve Lifing, but Preserve Life with a healing spell can be better, especially because you can upcast them to get even more Blessed Healer and Disciple of Life bonuses. So I think you can theoretically get 4, so you can go up to 4th level, so you can get 48 plus 6. Yeah, it's actually 1 extra HP to the target plus 6 on yourself. So that would actually be more healing if you do a 4th level Cure Wounds, but Divine Spark's actually better with Supreme Healing, but oh well. Then we get to the Light Domain. So we're actually done with the Old Cleric because that's actually all they got. Light Domain, bonus cantrip, move to Divine Order. Doesn't matter for them because you just got light, so it would have been nice if it was Produce Flame instead, but oh well. Domain spells has a few different spells. I don't think... Oh, it's stuff that involves Revelation. I'll have to look it up real quick. Let me just quickly Google on my phone. So let's look at Light Domain. So Burning Hands, I know, Fireball, Flame Strike are the same. They still have Scrying, actually. But Guardian of Faith is now Arcane Eye, which... Yeah, that's a massive improvement, actually. Because Guardian of Faith is probably the spell that... It's one of the spells that needs errata the most, because it's bad. Because you only get 3 strikes with it that hit. But then Daylight Fireball, of course, is the same. They actually lost both their 3rd level spells. That hurts, actually. Because Moonbeam and See Invisibility got slotted in instead of Flaming Sphere and Scorching Ray. Scorching Ray was admittedly very powerful, but then Burning Hands and Fairy Fire are actually the same. So, yeah. They got hit with a hammer with their 2nd level spells. I almost feel bad for them, but at the same time, you get Fireball, so it doesn't matter. Flame Strike is kind of useless, though. Let's be honest. Because Flame Strike, unless they upgrade the damage on it, so it's better than a Fireball at the same level, yeah, it's not great. Well, it does bypass resistances and immunities, but yeah, it's still kind of worse. Warding Flare just has improved Flare combined with it, so yeah, it's... So you get Revealing Light instead now as a bonus thing. And Potent Spellcasting is just Blessed Strikes in the base class. And then, so yeah, Warding Flare, it's otherwise the same. Like, Wiz times per day. Imposing disadvantage on attack roll as a reaction from an enemy in 30 feet of you. And it doesn't mean... And it can be you or an ally. Doesn't matter. Radiance of the Dawn is actually the same. So, as a magic reaction, Share Channel Divinity, and any magical darkness in 30 feet of you is dispelled. And each creature of your choice inside must make a con save or take 2d10 plus your cleric level radiant damage. Half as much as a successful one. I would like it if this was combined with fire, if it was radiant and fire, since you have a bunch of fire spells here, plus a few radiant ones now. Not that you really care, but it is there. So I think it'd be cool if it did that instead. Then Revealing Light, as a bonus action, use your eyes and cast See Invisibility without expending a spell slot. And you do this once per day. And when you cast just the spell this way, allies also gain the benefit while in 10 feet of you. And until the spell ends, you emit bright light in 10 feet around you and dim light in additional 10 feet. And you end the spell early as a bonus action. I would like if they made it where that was just an upgrade you got baseline, rather than once per day you get that improved See Invisibility. But I mean, for what it is, it's actually good. But it's just, I think it could be a little better. Groan of Lights. It also buffs Radiance of the Dawn, which is actually a cool idea. And it's not an action to deactivate early, which, I mean, fair. No one wants to spend an action to deactivate their thing. So, as magic action, I get an aura of sunlight that lasts a minute. Emit bright light in 60-foot radius, dim light in additional 30 feet. Enemies in bright light have disadvantage on saving throws against your Radiance of the Dawn, and any spell that deals fire radiant damage. So yeah, it's definitely fun and powerful. So yeah, it's Light Domain, roughly the same. They got their second level spells nerfed to hell, but I mean, they did get some pretty good ones, so. And it's still not bad, it's just you kind of lost your very powerful spells. Trickery Domain. This one has an updated spell list. I don't think it originally had bonus proficiencies, which I will also say there's still some issues I have with this that I've actually always had, but they still get Charm Person, Disguise Self. They now get Invisibility and Pass Without Trace instead of Mirror Image and Pass Without Trace. Then instead of Blink and Dispel Magic, for whatever reason, you now get Hypnotic Pattern Non-Detection, 2 spells that actually make sense. Polymorph got replaced with Confusion, and you still get Dimension Door. Then you have Hold Monster and Mislead instead of Dominate Person and Modify Memory, which Mislead definitely feels right. And Hold Monster, I guess they decided Dominate was too good. Blessing of the Trickster, you can target yourself. And you can target creatures 30 feet away. It's otherwise the same, though. Then Invoke Duplicity is your Channel Divinity. And doesn't require concentration. It's a bonus action. And you teleport when you use it. And not just when you move the illusion later. So you teleport 30 feet as a bonus action. Create a perfect illusion of yourself in the space you left. Lasts for 1 minute until you're incapacitated. Or dismiss it as a bonus action. And you can cast spells through the illusion space, but you must use your own senses. When both you and your illusion are in 5 feet of creature that can see the illusion, you have advantage on attack rolls against the creature. Then, as a bonus action, you can move the illusion up to 30 feet to an unoccupied space. You can see in 120 feet of yourself, and you can teleport, swapping places with the illusion. So, it's gotten a bit of an upgrade to be not clumsy to use, let's say. Then Trickster's Magic at 6th level. It replaces Cloak of Shadows, which no one liked, so you now just get Trickster's Magic. So it also mentions here that it includes invisibility, but basically if you cast an illusion spell with a spell slot, you can change it to a bonus action for the casting if it's normally an action, and you do this whiz times per day. Honestly, I don't know why you'd have this whiz uses per day, because it's still using spell slots, so you can't like make Minor Illusion a bonus action with this. So I feel like, I don't know, I feel like it could easily be, yeah, you just can cast illusion spells as a bonus action instead of an action. Though I will point out this does work with any class. So you could theoretically be a warlock, get more illusion spells from warlock or bard or wizard or whatever, but most likely warlock because they can use wisdom too, and then use it on a bunch of other spells. But I don't know, I feel like the whiz per day uses don't really matter when you're just casting a bunch of utility spells, mostly. Because there's not any damaging ones, or not many damaging ones, and you don't get them by default, so The best one's Hypnotic Pattern, which is overpowered to be fair. But, I don't know, I don't feel like the long rest, Wiz uses between long rests is warranted right now. But improved duplicity, and it's entirely changed. So rather than creating 4 duplicates instead of 1, instead, you teleport 120 feet with Evoke Duplicity, and when you move the illusion, it can move 60 feet instead of 30. And when your allies make attack rolls against a creature within 5 feet of illusion, it has advantage. And when the illusion ends, your creature of your choice in 5 feet of it regains Cleric level HP. So yeah, it definitely really buffs Invoke Duplicity. I will say, I do kind of wish Distract had range by default, so that it was actually useful, and maybe also had a bonus to. Not that you really have a lot of ranged attacks, but it would be nice if they worked with ranged attacks. But another critique I have: why can't Trickery Domain get stealth and deception proficiency? Mostly stealth proficiency, but it's just kind of weird that they do a lot of stuff involving stealth, but by default, you can't have stealth proficiency, so you have to get it from your background, which, granted, given the last time we saw backgrounds, or, well, the only time we saw backgrounds in One D&D, there was custom background where it's just like you get any 2 skills and such. You can easily get it. It's just, I feel like they should just have stealth proficiency to go along with Blessing of the Trickster. Like, original one needed it more because you can't target yourself with Blessing, but yeah, it's just a weird one. So, the War Domain. Last but not least, I think the only big change for domain spells is Flame Strike got replaced by Destructive Wave, which, yeah, I think we can all agree. It was kind of weird that War Domain gave you a ranged spell instead of a close range one when everything else was close range based. Everything else is the same, though. Like, still get Divine Favor, Shield of Faith, Magic Weapon, Spiritual Weapon, Crusader's Mantle, Spirit Guardians, Freedom of Movement, Stone Skin, and Hold Monster is still the same, but Flame Strike got replaced. Bonus Proficiency is gone, so it's just Divine Order, quite literally, in this case. War Priest has an added utility of you get a Weapon Mastery. Just 1, but you get a Weapon Mastery, which it fits. I mean, granted, you're just going to take whatever melee weapon you want as your main weapon. Well, you could take a ranged one as well, and then just use cantrips for ranged attacks. But hey, it's still cool that you get a mastery. And then you can make a weapon attack as a bonus action, Wiz times per. And now it also recharges with short rest, which it's actually a good idea. Because it did seem a bit expensive before, where it's like you get a bonus action very few times per day. Guided Strike. It's you or another creature in 30 feet of you, misses an attack roll. Expend Channel Divinity, get plus 10 bonus. Which I do feel sad that several Channel Divinities are still going to be, you just use it no matter what. So I think unless you really need to heal somebody in an emergency, or you have a bunch of undead around you, you're still going to use Guided Strike. War God's Blessing, redesigned. since War God's Blessing was just, for whatever reason, just Guided Strike for allies, which, I'll be honest, that was kind of stupid. So War God's Blessing is now, instead of Channel Divinity, whenever you cast Shield of Faith on another creature, it also affects you. And you can cast a spell once without expending a spell slot, and regain the ability with a short or long rest, which, yeah, basically every fight you can have a Shield of Faith up, which is really powerful. Might be a bit too powerful, so this might need to be moved to a long rest only. Or maybe whiz times per day, but then again, like, as I said, right now, short rests are very rare, so it's not too bad that it's a short rest, but it's definitely a cool idea where you get Shield of Faith once per fight-ish. Avatar Battle. It's just flat-out resistance to all bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage, not just non-magical, which does make a lot of sense since a lot of late-level creatures have magical attacks, so Avatar Battle didn't really do much. So yeah, I can understand that change. So it's like, yeah, you now just have flat-out resistance to those by default. So that's definitely a fun feature. And also kind of makes barbarians feel bad because they don't, they only have that in Rage. You just always have it. So, but that's Cleric, mostly. I might go over where are the spells, because I want to say some of the spells were listed here as well. I know Paladins were. It's not loading anything after the next page of Rogue. There we go. Spells. We're in Arcane, the longest spell list in the game. So were any of these listed? No, actually. So we're going to go back up to by Druid. I never showed Elementalism in the last video, didn't I? So yeah, well, I'll show it this one. So we don't have to worry about spells yet, but last time we saw Cleric, there was a few spell changes, so let us go through them. Banishment, I honestly don't really know what changed. Barkskin's going through changes as well. Banishment, I don't remember what changed. It's a weird and small thing, but as I recall, concentration for a minute. Well, I'll just skip those over because it's changes, not obvious, and it's a little thing too, as I recall. So let's not worry about it. Guidance. This was the good version. So guidance, a classically okay spell, actually. Like, this one, it's okay normally, but it's now a reaction when you or an ally in 10 feet of you fail an ability check. So it's now an instant spell, so no concentration anymore. Yay. And just add a d4 to the ability check, potentially turn it into success, which notably does not buff initiative anymore, which, yeah, that one is... That's kind of one of those corner case uses that's like, wait, you can do that? And it's also like, oh gosh, you can do that? Prayer of Healing, which I'm hoping stays this way, But it's still the 10-minute cast time. But now you can choose spell mod, creatures. Each of them regains 2d8 HP and gets the benefits of a short rest. And do note, I think this does mean they can still spend hit dice to heal even more. So, while they did remove the spell mod to the HP regained, Prayer of Healing was originally a pretty bad spell, so it's actually worth using now because that short rest part, oh my gosh, it's great. And of course, if it's changed to 15 minutes, it might make this short rest part useless, but if it's 30 minutes, it'd still be good because it's like, yeah, 10 minutes instead of 30. That's less time spent sitting around, which makes this spell a godsend, even if it's divine only, which is kind of rough, actually, but oh well. Yeah, we'll get to spiritual weapon in a moment, but another one was resistance, actually, which is right here, actually. But anyway, resistance, it works very similar to guidance, but it's a reaction. When you are now in 10 feet, fail save, instant duration now, and you just roll a d4 and add it to the saving throw. But this one, yeah, one of the worst cantrips in the game, instantly made completely worth it. Spiritual weapon, one change made. Concentration. Thank you, wizards. You fixed one of the most broken spells in the game. Yeah, it's... That lack of concentration before was just absurd, where it's like, oh yeah, you can have this and another concentration spell up, meaning you get even more damage each turn, and yeah, it's just something else. It's yeah, so concentration, deserved nerf. I do hope Guardian of Faith gets modified as well to be not absolute garbo as well. Flame Strike could also use a buff to make it at least better than a Fireball of the same level, or hit really high, but yeah, there's ways of changing it, but and close that now. So, on to one of my favorite classes, the Druid. So, what has changed here? Well, Channel Nature has been cut in favor of storing Wild Shape at second level. I will say, I wish they just had Wild Shape uses called Channel Nature, or something similar, but basically not Wild Shape. I honestly don't know why they changed it back, because part of the thing that I liked most about the Channel Nature name was that it made it where, yeah, you know, there's this generic name for Wild Shape. There's this alternate name for the Wild Shape uses because Wild Companion exists. And then also your subclasses have a lot of different uses. Now, one note, they did remove the Healing Blossoms Channel Nature. I do have to say, honestly, I actually don't mind this, because a big thing with Healing Blossoms was it was designed as another way to use it that wasn't Wild Shape or Wild Companion, but, and this is something that I mentioned before with it, I felt like the original Druid playtest was done, in hindsight, like, the one subclass per Unearthed Arcana, or per class, did not work with this one, because they really needed both Circle of the Moon and Circle of the Land to really get to the core of which one needed to be changed, what needed to be changed about it. So I feel like this one, they kind of missed the mark with it, where we weren't testing both a wild shape and non-wild shape druid, which could potentially hide a ton of issues with their design, like Might of the Land being giving multi-attack, and just how little they buffed your like how much they buffed wild shape versus how much they buffed any other channel nature. So it does end up being a thing where in Healing Blossoms it did get removed, kind of. We'll see it. But while I would be sad it got removed, because I'm not the biggest fan of Wild Companion and Wild Shape on most druids, I will say they did get an ingenious alternate use. But I do wish it was Channel Nature, and it was just Wild Shape and Wild Companion, part of Channel Nature. And I still think they should have upgrades to Wild Companion. But we'll get to it. So, Druidic. Now always gives you Speak with Animals. Yeah, it works. It's one of those things that, like, it makes sense that a druid can do it all the time, but it's definitely, so yeah, I don't think they needed to do it, but I think we're all fine with them doing it. Primal Order, new first level feature. It's just Holy Order. It's just Divine Order, but Primal. That's really what it is. Then Wild Shape, it's now second level again. And it's not the kind of odd version here. And I'll say, ultimately, both actually work fine. And I think there's merits to both. I just think probably the biggest problem I have with the one they have here is in the old one was specifically Tiny Critter at 11th level. Like, the only reason to use Wild Shape when you're not a Moon Druid is to scout out as a tiny creature, usually. You could use a small, but you're usually a tiny one. Let's be honest. But having an 11th level is just like, why? Why should I take so long to get the most useful one if I'm not Moon Druid? Especially when it's not powerful. It does not deserve to be at 11th level. Like, oh, I can be a tiny creature and my damage is halved. at 11th level. Whoop-de-doo. I would rather have something that was actually good and maybe buffed anything that's not wild shape. Because that was another critique I had, where just about everything they gave you in that was wild shape related in the base class, where Circle of the Moon felt like it got barely anything for wild shape. So it was definitely a mess, but this one, I think we're in a better place, but we could still go back to the new version with the wild shapes. Just a few more tweaks. But basically, you now use beast stat blocks again. But you only know a limited number of stat blocks. But you also get swim shapes. Spellcasting, no longer tied to the level of your spell slots because they're a bit older. Wild Resurgence got moved from 15th to 5th. It's been redesigned as well. So yeah, it got moved way earlier. Because yeah, it was like, oh yeah, you use Healing Blossoms as part of when you wild shape. So yeah, it pretty much kind of weakens the use of ever using Healing Blossoms. So yeah. Elemental Fury, new 7th level feature. It's just Blessed Strikes, but different. Communing with Nature, new 9th level feature. Guess what that one does? Improved Elemental Fury. Just improved Blessed Strikes, but Elemental Fury. Archdruid now lets you use unexpended wild shapes to use as spell slots. Which, let's be honest, that's kind of weird, actually, when you think about it. But anyway, let's look at the actual stuff. So, Druidic, you have Speak with Animals prepared at all times. And you use Druidic to leave hidden messages. Only you and others who know Druidic can spot such a message. Others can spot it with a DC 15 intelligence check for investigation. But Primal Order, you've got Magician, which, real quick, I feel like that should be associated with Wizard, not Druid. I don't like it. I just don't think of a Magician as being anything close to Druidic. But then Warden, you get martial weapons and medium armor. So basically, worse Protector. Yeah, because Druids also still only have up to light armor, which, I mean, to be fair, it's kind of a change where, because of their metal armor restriction that was kind of weird in old school, you only could technically use hide. So now it's like, oh yeah, you just have light armor default, but can get medium armor with Warden training. Yeah, I do feel like Warden, I mean, and I will say this now, it feels like they kind of went a bit too cleric-y, maybe, where there's a lot of parallels to Cleric, some of which I think absolutely fine and fair. But then Magician and Primal Order, it's like, yeah, it's very, very similar to what Clerics get. I do appreciate it for what it is, where, yeah, I can get an extra Primal spell. I get extra Primal Cantrip if I want to. I also get Wisdom for Nature, which I think could be melded into Druidic and just given to all Druids. And then Warden, it's just worse Protector, but I do appreciate it for what it is, where I can now be a Weapon Cleric, or a Sniper Cleric, basically, or Sniper Druid, which is fun. Also, I'm going to take a quick break. Okay, I've returned. So, anyway, so yeah, there's a lot of cleric-y stuff here with Druid, but some of it's okay. Like, this, I think, it does work out fine, and I just think Magician should be renamed. Like, please rename that. It's another of those words, like, it just doesn't feel right. But yeah, everything else is, spellcasting is the same as Player's Handbook, at least. Well, minus how you prepare spells, but oh well. Wild Companion and Wild Shape. So, I will point out, with the way they work right now, I do find it stupid that Wild Companion's listed first. Because it uses Wild Shape. Like, you can expend a spell slot or use a use of Wild Shape to cast Find Familiar without material components. And it's a Fey when you cast it this way. And disappears when you finish a long rest, so... Yeah, it's... I mean, you can still use a spell slot for it, but... I will also say that with Find Familiar, the last time it showed up, the Fey specifically did psychic damage, which I wasn't a big fan of. If we go over to here... Because Find Familiar was here. So it's a Celestial, Fey, or Fiend. So you can only choose one of those three by default. And then Celestials did Radiant damage. Fey did Psychic. Fiends did Necrotic damage, which... Could they give that to Warlock, please? Because Poison is not good. But Psychic for Fey on Druid, it's like... It just feels wrong. And I still wish it was, you would just make it a beast instead. Or maybe have it do piercing, slashing, or bludgeoning damage, which you choose each time. Or just force. But basically something that's not psychic, because, I don't know, psychic just feels a bit too subtle and mental for a more physical class, where like Bard originally was more of a mental magic class. Cleric also has a bit more of a mental side or a spiritual side, but Druid is the raw physical side. So having an alternate damage on the familiar that is not psychic would be better. But then we get the Wild Shape, which... Okay, so there's two big changes to it from the Player's Handbook, the original Player's Handbook. First off, you only know a set number of forms. So you start with 3, you go to 5. You only get them at 2, 4, and 8. Though I think you and you can replace one with a long rest, which isn't bad, but I will come back to this later, though. But also, swim speeds are not restricted anymore. I will also say I'm glad that size doesn't matter anymore. It is kind of sad that the one from here, we did lose it, but it's kind of a mixed bag where there's no other spells to worry about. Oh yeah, Spare the Dying also got changed, but it just gave 1 hit point, which it's honestly very powerful, but you do have to go up and touch them. But with Druid, these stat blocks were nice because it gave a very specific set of abilities. So my only complaint was that multi-attack was baseline Druid rather than Circle of the Moon only, which I think is how it should have been. Just to make sure it's like, yeah, no, Wild Shape, you're not supposed to be good with Wild Shape unless you're Circle of the Moon, where Circle of the Moon didn't matter as much. It helped still, but the power gap felt smaller. A bit too small, in my opinion. But here, we're back to starting at 1/4 only, then 1/2, then 1 CR. No flight speed, still 8th. But swim speeds are now default, so you just get better form, another form, and a better form at 4th level. So, otherwise it's roughly the same. But there is a big change, so you retain your hit points, hit dice, intelligence, wisdom, and charisma scores. class features, species, traits, languages, and feats. You also get retained skill and saving throw proficiencies. Use your proficiency bonus for them. And you also gain any proficiency bonuses the creature had, but you use your proficiencies. So, basically, how it ends up being is if it gives you, a creature gives you proficiency in stealth, then you use your proficiency bonus plus your dexterity in creature form. So it's simple. You can't cast spells, but you can still concentrate on them. So you can still use Call Lightning in it. Objects still work the same. So roughly the rules work the same. It's just you no longer have the alternate hit points, which, yeah, that was the number one change with it that was totally deserved, because it did hit Circle of the Moon Druid's survivability with a massive, and I mean massive hammer, but it was deserved, even if they did end up accidentally forgetting to give them a bit more resilience, meaning that, yeah, they hit it with a bit too hard of a hammer. So they have no extra durability while in wild shape. But at the very least, it was like, yeah, it's a deserved nerf. It just, they forgot to add something that, which granted, they didn't really know they needed to do. But then third level is when you get your Druid subclass. And in this list is Circle of Stars. Yeah, I'll just say this now. Circle of Stars should go. And then bring back Circle of Dreams and update it. Because Circle of Dreams, it needs an update. Because, well, it and Shepherd need the update, but and at first, if you were to tell me, oh yeah, there's going to be 4, I would say, well, both of them are going to appear. But instead, we also have a new one, Circle of the Sea, which I will preface this with, going forwards, I hope they do not add any more new subclasses, with the exception of Hexblade's replacement, but that is a replacement. Though I don't want to see any more new subclasses. But Circle of the Sea, I will say this now. Bringing the coast stuff out of Circle of the Land and into a new circle honestly makes a ton of sense, because it does kind of want some different stuff to other forms. So splitting Circle of the Land and Circle of the Sea into 2 circles is a welcome change, and it's the one new subclass here I accept. The other one, not so much, with the caveat that it's more because I want them to prioritize updating what needs to be updated. It's the same thing with Circle of the Stars, where if you're not going to list it here, because we have Circle of the Land, Circle of the Moon, Circle of the Sea, but not Circle of Stars, if it's not getting changed, delay it for other subclasses. And in this case, I would say Circle of Dreams needs it, because Circle of the Shepherd was fine as it is. It's definitely got some interesting flavor in thematics in what you could build, and it also doesn't need its own channel nature use or its own wild shape use that's an alternate, because Wild Companion exists now. So if anything, they should have an upgrade to Wild Companion, similar to how Circle of the Moon upgrades your wild shape. They do it for Wild Companion. But Circle of Dreams needs the update, because it's just the worst Druid subclass right now. Granted, Circle of Spores is also not in a good place, but at the very least, it has everything. It just ends up being a little jank, because it supports use of melee weapons, but does it upgrade them enough to make it worth using? Because Shillelagh and Magic Stones, by extension, but worse, are also kind of bad. So it ends up being in a weird place where it's a bit janky right now, but it works. It's just, its builds optimization just, it's weird. Where, like, at 17th level, you just stop using your weapon altogether because you don't have an upgrade for using Shillelagh at all. And you only get 1 extra damage with melee weapons. So it's kind of pointless to use them past a certain point. So you just go to spells. It's just weird. But Wild Resurgence, if you have no uses of Wild Shape left, you can give yourself 1 by expending a spell slot. No action required. And you can do so once per turn. Not that you really use them more than once per turn, but oh well. And you can expend a use of Wild Shape to give yourself a first level spell slot. Can't do so again until you finish a long rest. That one, I mean, you do get them back when you do get regain a use when you finish a short rest, but I think, like, you know, you have, where's the list? Like, you get up to 4. You start with 2, you get up to 4. You only get 1 back with a short rest. So I don't think it's that bad to say, yeah, you can use this any number of times because you probably have other uses that are oftentimes a lot better. But anyway, 6th level, you get a subclass feature, so let's skip over that. Elemental Fury. Basically their version of Blessed Strikes, but they still get potent spellcasting, but it's only primal cantrips. Primal Strike. Once in each turn, you get weapon attack roll. Or Beast Forms attack in Wild Shape, so Circle of the Moon just automatically takes Primal Strike. There's no need to even consider potent spellcasting. Also, Circle of the Sea also wants it right now, whereas Land in Stars would want potent spellcasting, but I'll go over why in a moment. And then also, this is Cold, Fire, Lightning, or Thunder. It doesn't do Acid, which is weird. Like, I don't know. It's just, it feels like Acid and Poison should be here, but oh well. Not that Poison matters. It's just, it feels like a druidy thing to have. But this also kind of takes the place of the Moon Druid's ability of Elemental Wild Shape. So instead of having the Elemental Wild Shape, it's now just part of base Druid, where you get Elemental Energy that you can use with weapon and beast attacks. So I do like this option where you can be more of a spellcaster or more of a primal warrior, or just a better beast, which you're probably going to take as Moon Druid anyway. But Commune with Nature, you get Commune with Nature for free. It's basically your commune, but so they don't get anything like Divine Intervention, sadly, which I do feel like they might need an 11th level feature to, like, and specifically something that sets them apart from Cleric. Because the other ones, I feel like they make sense, but especially with other changes, like, they work, it just feels a bit too close to Cleric. Though, I also would like to see Channel Nature return as terminology, but maybe renamed a bit to make it more distant from Cleric, where, but that's mostly just because having it still be wild shape uses makes very little sense grammatically, where it's not just wild shape anymore, especially because Wild Companion exists by default. So why have the alternate name? Like, why not have an alternate name? I mean, so then you don't get any month. Albeit you do get a new spell level, but then 15th level, improved Elemental Fury. So Primal Strike, it just gets 2d8 damage. Potent spellcasting. I will point out that this does some absolutely stupid things. So I will say, Druid has a spell range problem. This is not how I would do it. Because A, it's at 15th level. I do not... It's also really weak for 15th level. Just upgrade the range of Produce Flame to 60 feet at least. If not, 120. Like, give it 120 foot range. It doesn't break anything. Because it does less damage than a Firebolt. And it doesn't get extra damage like Sorcerous Burst. Just make it have a longer range. I don't want my one... And it's like, Thorn Whip, at least, yeah, it pulls stuff to you, and it's a melee spell attack. So, I'm pulling stuff to me. It's okay to have it at 30 feet, because I'm probably a melee build with this. That wants enemies closer. But this, it's like... It's just so much weaker than the Cleric one. But, it does have one of the... With one exception... Poison Spray suddenly becomes a very powerful spell when you don't have magic resistance and or poison immunity. Or poison immunity, but yeah. So basically, it suddenly makes that spell viable. And it's also why I was talking about the 5 feet or more being changed to 10 feet or more, because they should not interact with stuff like Thunderclap and stuff. But I also feel like this, if they want it to be like this, it should be any primal spell that deals damage. But this one, it's just like, yeah, it's all primal cantrips and not just damaging ones. So yeah, it has a few stupid interactions, but it's also very lackluster and weak, where it's like, I don't really care about this. Because 300-foot range, it's only good in the context that my spells have crap range normally, so I kind of need the extra range, but it's 15th level, which you barely ever get to, and it's just very weak. So I think this should just be replaced by something else. It could theoretically be just, oh yeah, you get twice your wisdom modifier temporary hit points to someone and just have it be the same. But it could also be something different, like maybe some AoE cleave, like maybe an enemy adjacent to a creature damaged by it takes whiz damage of the same type or something like that. I don't know, but basically something that's not a range increase, and have Produce Flame get a better range. That's it, really. Though Poison Spray will be sad, but I mean, it's Poison Spray. It's like, it's the spell kind of doomed to be, it just exists in a weird place where it hits so hard, but to make it do that, it has to be such a close range spell, and then it's also poison damage and a con save, which is the worst kind of cantrip to have. So it just kind of ends up being that spell that, like, yeah, it's, you can't really change it to be better, so it's like, yeah, it is what it is. But then Primal Strike, do 8 if you want it. 18th level, you have Beast Spells, which very hard to care about this at 18th level, but you can just cast spells in beast form now. That was always kind of one that I'm like, I don't really care about this feature. And thinking about it, maybe it could just be a Circle of the Moon only thing, so you don't have to worry about it. Like, I don't know, it's just like, it's there. I don't really care about it most of the time unless I'm Circle of the Moon, because if I'm Circle of the Moon, then yeah, I'm in Wild Shape all the time, so Wild Shape spells is awesome, but I also think it could be moved earlier, but have like a level limit. So maybe at 11th level, it could be you get beast spells, but you only go up to 5th level, so you can't cast your big spells. Or maybe it's limited to 4th level spells even, where you can't cast your biggest spells, but then at 18th you get improved beast spells that then lets you get up to, let's say, 8th level. So, or maybe cap it to 7th, but just say, yeah, you know, your best spell or spells you can't use, but you can use most of your spells. A lot of more basic ones, at least. And then 20th level is Arc Druid, and so you get infinite wild shape uses. Welcome. Longevity. I mean, it's just there. The Nature Magician. You can convert uses of wild shape into a spell slot. And basically, this is just a better version of the Wild Resurgence. So you just get so you use like any number of wild shape uses and then convert them into a spell slot of up to twice the level of the one you expend. I would, however, limit this to perhaps limit this to 5th level, if not 6th level, because right now you can do it up to 8th. So you can just use all your wild shape uses, get an 8th level spell. Which is probably the best one because it is a long rest till you can do so again, so it's like, why not just use all of them to suddenly, oh, I have an 8th level spell slot extra. But, and once again, I feel like that long rest recharge is just mean. Just make it it just improves your Wild Resurgence. And just have that be like, yeah, it's an improved Wild Resurgence, but it's called Arc Druid. But yeah, it's not bad because you do also you still have Wild Resurgence, so you can use them separately, but I do think it would be better if both of them just were unbound in uses, basically. Or like it was hard capped at wisdom modifier per day, but that's still a lot more flexibility with them. But then they also share uses. It'd be nice. So, first off, we're actually going to talk about Circle of the Moon, because Circle of the Moon is the one that showed up here, so we're going to talk about it because it got changed by a significant margin, but also not too much. So, in the first one we got, well, for one, they lost circle forms, mostly because these exist. So you had the default shapes, so it didn't really matter what to have circle forms. Though I do think with this version, they could have the large creatures tied specifically to being Circle of the Moon. Because large is definitely a bit powerful to have as a normal druid, so maybe give it to where large animals aren't available to druids normally until maybe like part of, I don't know, maybe 8th or 9th level maybe. But basically have it where a bit later you do get the bigger forms, but have Circle of the Moon be able to start becoming a big creature, and then you can become huge later when you would get that, or you get bigger forms later. That's another thing where 14th level should have been you get big forms instead of Alter Self, but that one's fortunately gone. So Circle Forms is back because of how it works now. I will say it's actually exactly the same. So I do think that this could be changed over. Uh, I'll just say that I wish this gave you more wild shapes. Uh, Wild shape options. Like, even if it was just you have one extra wild shape option, it would be cool. Where it's like, yeah, you have a bunch of wild shape options, which is just better. Though I will also give the critique that this does have the problem of, because of the way the monster stats work, you still have to look through all of them. And I do appreciate the idea that, yeah, you have a more limited list rather than like you always have access to them, but it does run into the issue that you still have to look through it for everything, and there's still very few forms that are actually good, so you're kind of pigeonholed into the best forms, especially a Circle of the Moon, because animals become more restricted in number the higher you go. So I do think the previous one was better for the sake of having more freedom with what you had. So this gave more freedom with your appearance, which I definitely like the idea of. So it's like you could keep to one basic appearance, but then change in power over time. But I think the power was just swung a bit too far from Circle of the Moon specifically. And then another change, Combat Wild Shape. Now lets you use your AC or the Beast Form's AC, whichever is higher. So basically, if you're Circle of the Moon, you're going Warden into Primal Strike, Elemental Fury. You're kind of pigeonholed into that, but the armor class is definitely good. So, and that's definitely a welcome addition where it's like, yeah, if your AC would be higher, then you get it. And it also helps you better control your stats in Beast Form, which is a welcome revision. So, and it also improves your durability a lot. Then you also get temporary hit points now, which is another massive change, where it's like, yeah, you get 3 times your druid level temporary HP. Or the form's hit points, so whichever's lower. So it's definitely a nice change up. So yeah, and it basically gives you the creature's HP, or 3 times your druid level, but it basically gives you a lot more hit points. So you get a bunch of temporary hit points now, which does make up for their loss of durability. And the 3 times druid level limit is also nice to have, where it's like, no, you can't be too crazy with your HP. So those are welcome additions. The durability bonus. This one had, I think did they actually lose bonus action? Oh, Wild Shape was just a bonus action normally. So it's now just a bonus action by default. So you don't have the bonus action turn, which I think it's okay to give that to base druids, because the action use it could be annoying, actually. So it's one of those that's like, either way, it's kind of net neutral, where it doesn't matter to me. Like, it makes sense that only Circle of the Moon can get bonus action Wild Shape because they care about it the most, but it also doesn't hurt to give it to other druids because they still have circle forms and all these bonuses now. You also get the ability to cast abjuration spells in beast form. And basically you can't use costed components, but anything else you can. So you can't revive in beast form, sadly, but I think you still couldn't do that. Oh, you just couldn't use material components at all. which is definitely, it's a nice addition that they specified costed material components, because uncosted material components are just a massive, like, pain in the butt, where it's like they exist, but nobody cares about them. And then also you have Moonbeam available while in beast form. So, yeah, that's interesting. And that replaces Quick Attack, which, yeah, Quick Attack was kind of weird because you could use Unarmed Strike as a bonus action, but that's Bestial Strike, not Unarmed. So, I feel like that was supposed to be, oh, you can use Bestial Strike as a bonus action, but the way it's worded, it's normal Unarmed Strike, which it does make sense that, yeah, you're a more primal and bestial druid. You'd make... I did like that idea, is like, I mean, it's a bit of a throwaway thing, but it is still... I understand its removal, and the Moonbeam is definitely interesting, where you just have Moonbeam active while in Wild Shape, and you cast it in Wild Shape, so that's an interesting one. And it does fit the Circle of the Moon. So yeah, it's definitely it's an interesting change that I wasn't expecting. It might be a bit too powerful though. But I don't know. 6th level, still improved circle forms. Which is replacing Elemental Wild Shape, which, granted, Elemental Wild Shape basically got moved to the base, so you did lose the resistance to an elemental damage type, but then with improved circle forms, you also can do radiant damage instead of the physical damage with your attacks, which I do kind of prefer the idea that it's just magical, but I will admit, yeah, Curse's Strahd just got easier with a Moon Druid, because they can now do radiant damage to vampires. So yeah, they're actually really powerful against certain undead, which, I mean, it's not surprising that druids can do that, but it's still kind of funny that you get that, where it's like, yeah, that's actually really powerful at times, because radiant vulnerabilities do seem to be one of the more common ones, I think. But, or at least ones like Vampire. And then 10th level is Moonlight Step now. As bonus action, you teleport 30 feet to an unoccupied space you can see. Have advantage on your next attack roll for the next turn. And use Wiz times and regain them with a long rest. You can also expend 2nd level spell slots to do it. So, and also another side note on abjuration spells. This is a nice enough replacement to the original Druid's Combat Wild Shape heal, but I would say it still should have the ability to cast Cure Wounds as a bonus action on yourself. Or just say any spell that you can target yourself or another creature with, you can cast as a bonus action on yourself. So, like, Cure Wounds would be the big one, but also stuff like Lesser Restoration and, let's say, Shield of Faith, even. So, you can cast them on yourself as a bonus action, but you can only target yourself with them. So, it's still an action to Cure Wounds an ally, but you can Cure Wounds yourself as a bonus action, which that specifically would be helpful because you want that healing. Since right now, their healing's actually been nerfed because of this change. Or their self-healing is nerfed because of that. But you do have more versatility at least. Though I still want better self-healing. Because that's the main thing you needed, was self-healing, so that's why you had it. 10th level, instead of Elemental Strike, which just gave you more damage of the elemental wild shape damage. But Moonlight Step replaces it, so since that one kind of got moved to base druid. So teleport, already talked about it. And then Lunar Form at 14th level. Real quickly, good riddance to 1,000 forms. You were one of the most useless features ever. That absolutely frickin' sucked. Like, seriously, alter self at will? Like, why would you ever use that? Like, what's the point? It's such a terrible 14th level feature that's like, it does nothing with wild shape and stuff. So, yeah. And then, movable moonbeam. You can just move it 60 feet at the start of each turns. No action required. So you just move it for free now. Which, that's actually pretty powerful. And also note, that's not in wild shape. That is by default. You can move it around for free. In Shared Moonlight, when you use Moonlight Step, teleport a wheeling creature in 10 feet of you, and teleport it to 10 feet, 30 feet to be 10 feet within you still. Infinitely better than what we had before. Thank you. Still kind of weird it doesn't directly upgrade your wild shape, but it does upgrade other features you have, like it cares about Moonbeam, it cares about Moonlight Step, which also doesn't actually require Beast Form, but the teleport's still good because you teleport in combat, so yeah, like teleport's always good in combat. Melee or not, actually, so yeah. Circle of the Moon, I definitely like it more as a package compared to this one, but I do still think that we could go back to the previous wild shape with the 3 stat blocks. So the main benefit of this would be going back to the idea that, yeah, let's not have players have to dig through creatures of various types. But change it to where climb speed, you just get that by default. Same with Animal of the Sea. Add a 4th stat block for tiny critter to just, or Animal of the Ground maybe, so it's just a little creature. They'll also maybe make Animal of the Land have a burrow speed, like it's climb or burrow speed. I think that'd be good, where it's like you can burrow or you can climb. And I think a lot of people would like that too, actually, because it means you can dig again, which is another oddly specific yet useful one, where, because that was the other thing I did a lot, was on a druid, was I was either scouting as a tiny critter or I was digging as a badger. It's oddly specific uses that are so silly but still fun. So having burrow speeds back would be nice, but have like it's climb or burrow speed. And then also multi-attack is not default druid, it's moon only. So moon druids at 6th level get multi-attacks. And also, so tiny critters are default. And maybe make large not default, so it's like tiny to medium normally, while moon druids get to start with large and can also get, and then for their 14th level feature, or maybe even their 10th level, but they basically get the ability to go to a big form instead. So you get to go huge and then gargantuan. As that was another complaint I had about this, was you're ultimately bound to being large. When I think the better capstone for, especially compared to 1,000 forms, so that was in response to the first one. This, it's a lot better. It's fine. But I still think it'd be fun if they were able to just become a massive creature to just wreck the place. And just, they get a very powerful form. And, of course, you could also have an alternative where it just improves your normal form. Like, you don't have to become bigger, but if you do, you get better reach, at least. But you have the empowered form by normally, but you can also become absolutely massive and start just stomping everything. Which I think a lot of players would like as well, where it's just like, yes, please, let me become a massive monster and just start wrecking everything. That's a capstone. But I mean, what we have here, it's fine. It's much better. But I still think there's a way to use this version of Wild Shape. It has its merits. This also has its merits. It's ultimately either could be used. But I'm going to take a quick break. Alright, I'm back. So let us continue. So Circle of Land. This one got changed a bit, and it's actually very interesting. So Circle Spells is very different. So yeah, that's going to be an interesting one to look at. Land's Aid, do 3rd level feature, replacing the bonus cantrip, and also taking Natural Recovery's place as... and also, that's where Healing Blossoms went, which is actually totally fair, because normal druids didn't need... Not all of them needed Healing Blossoms, because they have another thing they can do, so giving something similar to Healing Blossoms to Circle of Land, which didn't have one previously, as it was one of the 4 before Wild Shape uses had alt stuff, but... so moving it over does make a lot of sense, as... I mean, for one, it does make a lot of sense with them, and 2, it's a default subclass, so... While I could see an argument for Healing Blossoms going to Dreams and fitting really well there, maybe in place of their default ability, I do think this is also really good and fitting, as it's kind of a plant-based thing, so Land's Aid's now there. Natural Recovery is at 6th level instead of 3rd, or 2nd, but it also has a Circle Spells enhancement and it replaces Land Stride. Nature's Ward is redesigned to be actually useful and interact with Circle Spells. Then Nature's Sanctuary also been redesigned, and it gives another way to use Wild Shape uses. And also provide protection, so let's get into it. Circle Spells. So, instead of 8 different lists that you pick at 1st level, and also getting a bonus cantrip, well, now, whenever you prepare spells, you get to choose a land type, either arid, polar, temperate, or tropical. Do note, coastal is gone. That's why Circle of the Sea exists now. So it's basically an offshoot that has come out to pretty much replace the old, which I think is totally fair. It definitely wants its own set of features and a lot of stuff that is different to what land wants, so it does feel right. But anyway, you also only get 6 extra spells now, with one of them being a cantrip. So you get 1 spell of every level, which I do wish they had these listed separately once again, because it's kind of weird seeing them all in random orders. Like, this one, it is listed in level order, but this one isn't. Like, this one's reverse level order. It's just weird. So, you lost half the options. You lost half the spells. And some of them also got moved around. Like, Lightning Bolt is here from Mountains on Temperate instead. They don't get called Lightning anymore, but then again, that was honestly kind of weird that you got that, because you could already get it, but... so, this does end up with 5 really tightly packed lists. So you've got your kind of poisoning one in tropical instead of wetland. Temperate is more the lightning and wind one. Polar is more cold oriented, and then arid is fire based. So you also do get 4 really good cantrips now. So, and do note, you actually change your spell list each long rest. So it's definitely a really cool system. So I do like all of these, though I do still wish there was a ranged lightning damage cantrip that wasn't lightning lure. Also, I wish Ray of Sickness was actually a bit better, but it is what it is. So, tropical, probably the worst. Temperate's my favorite, but arid's probably the best because Fireball, it's really powerful. So, and you get Firebolt as well, which is also really powerful. And does kind of replace the need for your other cantrips, but... So I do think it's definitely a cool direction. The extra cantrips are kind of... I definitely appreciate them. I just wish that... Definitely should have a replacement for Shocking Grasp that's a ranged lightning damage cantrip that's actually, like, ranged. Because that is a gap that needs to be filled. Lightning or Thunder, but preferably both. You just have both of them be separate cantrips. But anyway, let's move on to Land's Aid. So, choose a point 60 feet of yourself. And then there's a 10-foot radius sphere of plant stuff. So, each creature of your choice in the area must make a con save or take 2d6 necrotic damage. On failed save, half on a successful one. And the damage increases. Actually, before cantrips increase. So, though it does cap at 4d6, unfortunately, but it's fine. 5d6 might be a bit crazy anyway, so. And then one creature of your choice in the area regains 2d6 HP. So, you use Wild Shape to heal a creature and do damage. Basically, it's just Wither and Bloom, but actually a bit better by default. So, and it doesn't use your spell slots or hit dice, which also means you can target wizards with this. Because that's something that was asked of me before. I'm just like, yeah, you're a wizard. You have a d6 hit dice. I'm not targeting you with a Wither and Bloom. I'm sorry. But yeah, this is definitely neat. Not a big fan of the necrotic damage, but at the same time, I also understand why it's necrotic. It's like, I think piercing damage would be fine as well, where it's a physical damage type rather than one that's not an uncommon resistance. It's better than cold and definitely poison, but I do think piercing would feel a bit more appropriate, especially because I'm a druid. Necrotic is, unless I'm Circle of Spores, I don't like necrotic, but it's definitely cool. Though I do find it weird that it doesn't scale like a cantrip, but I'm not complaining because it's 46 at 14th level, so that's really powerful. That might need to get delayed to be more like a cantrip, but then 6th level, Natural Recovery. It still does the arcane recovery thing, but it's also, you can cast a spell slot spell once per long rest from your circle spells. So I do wish it said at the highest level, just because it would be nice if they scaled up. So it's like, yeah, you don't feel bad for, you have a 9th level spell, but then you cast the 3rd level one. Because Temperate, yeah, you're casting Lightning Bolt, period. Like, all their other spells are kind of meh. Misty Step is good. It's just, it's Misty Step. I have problems with that spell anyway. But, yeah. Nature's Ward, get a damage resistance. guess what it is. Though I do partly want tropical to be acid. And, well, poison's actually pretty common, so yeah, that's actually good. But the resistance is, you're also immune to poisoned, which maybe it should just be poison damage and acid. And then it's also poison. You have resistance and immunity, respectively. Then acid damage resistance with tropical. But, Nature Sanctuary. As a magic action, you can expend a use of Wild Shape. Create a 15-foot cube of them. And they'll last for 1 minute until you're incapacitated. You and allies have half cover while in the area. And allies gain your current damage resistance with Nature's Ward. And it's a bonus action, you move it 60 feet. A part of me feels like this should also have difficult terrain for enemies. But I'm also kind of annoyed that it's also a wild shape use. So you have two features that do it, and I gotta say, I'd rather use Land's Aid. I think maybe make Nature Sanctuary once per day instead, and then have it be 10 minutes. It also creates difficult terrain for enemies, so they aren't competing with each other. Because right now, Nature Sanctuary feels like there's not much reason to use it, unless, like, the resistance is nice, but there's lots of other ways of doing it earlier, so it's not the most useful. Now, last but not least for Druid, Circle of the Sea. So, circle spells, it's kind of similar to what they got as Circle of Land, but there's some different spells. So, you've got, for first level, Fog Cloud and Thunderwave. Not a bad arsenal. And then you've also got Ray of Frost as a cantrip, so some redundancy with Polar, but Once again, I do wish there was a lightning or thunder option. So, like, maybe if there was a ranged thunder option, it could be the prepared spell. So you get that as your cantrip with Circle of the Sea. And then this still has Ray of Frost, but, you know, this is now a different spell. And then the lightning cantrip replaces Temperate, since you're lightning attuned. Just a little change that I would like to see. And then you get Sleet Storm, Lightning Bolt, Control Water, Ice Storm, Conjure Elemental, Hold Monster. So a good arsenal, actually. I like it. And also Conjure Elemental is actually not restricted like Fathomless Warlock, which I also appreciate because I can choose water or air elementals. I mean, there's still Fire or Earth, which the former being absolutely stupid to ever use a Circle of the Sea through circle spells, but oh well. Then Wrath of the Sea is their wild shape alt use. So as bonus action, get this aura for 10 minutes, and if you are incapacitated or dismissed it, or manifest the aura again for whatever reason, which you should never do. And at the end of each of your turns, choose another creature in 10 feet of yourself. Must succeed on a con save against spell save DC, or take Wiz D6 thunder damage, and if it's large or smaller, be pushed up to 15 feet away from you. So, let's get the elephant out of the room. Or address the elephant in the room. That feels maybe a little too similar to Circle of Spores. Granted, Circle of Spores always has it active, but I still find the in 15 feet or in 10 feet part a bit too close. And also the 15-foot push feels maybe a bit too strong. And the damage dice, once again, maybe a bit too strong in comparison. Because Circle of Spores, and it's also not even a reaction. It's just straight up a better Circle of Spores feature. So I feel like to move it away from Circle of Spores, have it be have a bigger range, and maybe at the very least make it D4s, and maybe also just make it scale like a cantrip, and it's just D4s. So and then also nerf the push to maybe 5 feet. But just kind of, this just feels a bit too strong right now. And it feels like it has too short of a range. It's too close to poison spores. So it's a cool idea. I just don't think it fits well for in a world where Circle of Spores exists. This should be altered to accommodate the fact that spores exist. So smaller push, less damage, longer range. But other than that, I actually like this. Like, I want to like this a lot more. It's just, I have concerns for Circle of Spores with it. 10th level, Stormborn, fly speed equal to your speed, resistance to cold, lightning, and thunder damage. Also, really quickly, I'm going to say this. I feel like they should have a swim speed default. Yeah. Because it kind of feels weird that you can't, like, have water breathing by default. You have to use spells for it, which just feels wrong. Or actually, no, it's 6th level, you get a quadruple. Why did I skip over that? You get water breathing spell by default. You have a swim speed equal to yours. And if you use wild shape to assume a form that lacks a swim speed, it gains a swim speed. So, yeah. I will point out, though, why can't I cast it without a spell slot on myself? That'd be nice. If I could just cast it at will on myself. But still have the ability to use spell slots on other people, specifically. But just have it for free on myself. But then again, you also have wild shapes, but you don't want to use them for that, do you? But Stormborn, you have fly speed equal to yours. Doesn't get added to wild shapes. Sorry. And then you have cold, lightning, and thunder damage resistance. Which kind of makes this one look a bit weak. You can change it, but that's still a very good one. 14th level Oceanic Gift. Whenever you use Wrath of the Sea, you can target a creature in 60 feet of yourself to get it instead. And you can use 2 wild shapes with Wrath of the Sea to give it to you and the ally. So why would you ever not do that? Because... And also, fun things you can do. Enemy ping pong. Where you can ping pong them with 2 Wrath of the Seas. This doesn't... I don't know. I'm not a big fan of this. But it is nice. It's definitely nice. But I do think this feels maybe a bit underpowered. So I do think they could maybe change this to be something a bit more interesting and powerful. Yeah, so for Circle of the Sea, I do like its concept as, yeah, you know, rather than having Circle of the Land have the sea stuff as well, let's make it our own sea subclass. Like, let's just make it separate so you can have this sea-themed druid without having to worry about all the land stuff, and just have it be its own thing that has the stuff it needs in once. So definitely a cool concept, and it definitely justifies itself a lot more because it's not just and randomly a new subclass instead of another rework, which is kind of needed for this book. So this one, it does feel like there's a clear reason to add it as a new subclass when this is a rework edition, as it kind of plays into that reworking where with the changes to Circle of the Land, the Oceanic Druid would have otherwise gotten removed. So separating it allows for a lot greater, allows for a better Oceanic Druid. So this is a welcome addition. I'm fine with it being here in the 2024 Player's Handbook. Please give Dreams instead of Stars, and please upgrade it. It's the least interesting Druid of them all. Because it's A, the weakest, and B, it's really the most bland and flavorless, in my opinion. It's just not interesting in comparison. But then, for the last of the priests, Paladin. And this video's gone on for a while. For 2 hours, dang. I gotta love having all these subclasses. So Paladin. We also saw it here. There are a few changes. So I still get. I think most of them are more subtle. Lay on Hands is a bonus action. That's actually a really welcome change. And because that's my main complaint about Lay on Hands, is that it's an action and a touch. So having it as a bonus action, which I'm actually surprised it made it a bonus action, just straight up bonus action. I changed it to be it's a bonus action on yourself in 5.5 for normal paladins, but it's just a bonus action by default now, which is actually really good. It also avoids the Cure Wounds problem, where you spend an action, you have to move to be next to an ally and use your action to heal them for more HP. Now this is just like, yeah, you just use a bonus action, so you can move and bonus action heal, and you still have your action, which is great. Spellcasting, so spell preparation is no longer tied to spell slots directly. Paladins can change one prepared spell upon finishing a long rest, and cantrips aren't included. The Paladins get Weapon Mastery instead. And Weapon Mastery is a thing now. So did get cantrip before, which was neat, but interesting. But let me check this. Like, can replace one. That, I didn't notice that before, and I absolutely hate it. Why? Why can I only replace one spell per long rest? That's just needlessly clunky. It's just make it prepare spells like anyone else, please. Ugh. Paladin Smite, formerly Divine Smite, is now just you get extra smite spells, which are now Paladin exclusive. So a change that happened in the past, which was kind of like, well, this is interesting, was that all the smite spells were on Cleric. And for this playtest, that's changed a bit. And we'll see later. But basically, Clerics only get 2 first level ones now on Divine. So the rest are Paladin exclusive now. General Divinity, multiclass sidebar. Paladin subclass, progression is what the 2014 has. So that also means the has the knock-on effect of the transformation powers are actually really good. Again, they really nerfed Oath, the devotion one. It's like, yeah, this is. Aura Protection's now at 6th level. Albeit, I think that's mostly because you got it later because it ended up being the same level that the subclass feature was, so it's swapped around. So that's more of a change that because they're going back to the previous progression, Aura Protection's now first again. Because it was previously after the subclass feature, but now it's before again. So yeah, it's... and the aura is inactive if you're incapacitated, so... A natural change. Add your foes does nothing on a successful save. I forgot it actually did something on a successful save. What was it? Frightened condition for 1 minute. Dazed for 1 minute until it takes any damage. Yeah, that's actually pretty powerful. That's dazed and frightened, just dazed. So, yeah, fair. Aura of Courage is back to 10th level. What was it before, actually? I forgot it changed. $13th. Oh, it's... Let me guess. Oh, that's actually way earlier. Huh. I moved that far back. Radiant Strikes. Now it's melee weapons and unarmed strikes, since I believe it was just any attack previously. Yeah, simple martial weapon. So it works with unarmed attacks, but is now only melee weapons again. Though I still think that should maybe just be removed. It's just a bit too powerful at times. Restoring Touch, moved to 14th level from... $15th, so... What are the odds it changed with a... Yep, it swapped places with a subclass feature, because of course it did. And Divine Conduit has been removed in favor of Aura Expansion back at 18th level. So... And then they have subclass feature at 20th because that's their pinnacle instead of Epic Boons. Good riddance, because 20th level form powers are definitely awesome. Let's get into it. So lay on hands. Same as before, just a bonus action, which is awesome. Weapon Mastery, get 2 weapon masteries. Paladin Smite. This is a big change because you'll notice that so Thunderous Smite, Shining Smite, Blinding Smite, Staggering Smite, and Banishing Smite, with Shining Smite changing name again from Branding Smite to Glimmering Smite to now Shining Smite, which I think this is the best name so far. But, so those 5 are now exclusive to Paladin along with Divine Smite, which is now just a spell, which, let me tell you, thank you, Wizards. That should have been how it was at the start, but yeah, it's just way better. So what this means is all of the smites work the same. And in addition, you can cast one of the spells from this feature with a long rest. This is just a change to how the Oath spells worked. So here, the Oath spell feature gave you the free cast, so you could free cast an Oath spell. Instead, they just made it where you can free cast a Smite spell, since that just worked better. So, I guess we should probably look at spells, because there's also one that I should have looked at before, but we'll look at it now. Elementalism, Arcane Primal cantrip, so Paladins can't actually use it, nor Clerics, but you can back in air, create a breeze, basically all but the push of Gust, in a way. Back in Earth, create Shroud of Dust or Sand, or appear, make a word appear in Dust or Sand. Back in Fire, pretty much a better control flames, in my opinion. Like, you get some fiery-based effects. Back in water, some water-based effects. And you can create a cup of water. So, yeah, that's actually pretty good. And Sculpt Element, dirt, sand, fire, smoke, mist, or water. To assume a shape. So, yeah, this is basically a combination of the Xanathar's elemental cantrips, or basically the utility cantrips from Elemental Evil / Xanathar's, all in one package, but there's some things that are weaker about them. Like, I don't think the Earth one can do stone anymore to some degree, which I think would have been nice, but air doesn't get the push anymore, which actually fair. I'll give them that one. But yeah, everything else is But smite spells, going to spell updates, since elementalism was just a new spell, kind of. Now just work with melee weapons and unarmed strikes, and not ranged weapons, sadly. I missed that. Then Searing Smite and Wrathful Smite are on the Divine list. The rest are just Paladin exclusive. So, also, they still have the bonus action, which you take immediately after hitting with a melee or unarmed strike. I love this. My only complaint is, once again, where's Hail of Thorns, Ensnaring Strike, and Lightning Arrow? Because I would really like if they were changed to coincide with this one, with these smite spells. Especially Hail of Thorns and Ensnaring Strike. Because, I mean, at least in this one, it was, yeah, you know, Ranger's not here, but Ranger is in this Unearthed Arcana. Why didn't you change the spells? So, yeah, it's just, not the biggest fan of it, but it's kind of annoying, but yeah, it's, and especially since there was another change that made it where the concentration problem's back, and I would really like if they killed it forever by just fixing the smite-like spells. So just make them the bonus action hit with the attack. So yeah, it'd be great, Wizards. Please do that. But anyway, Banishing Smite now requires concentration again, since this one didn't have concentration. Which, yeah, it was just 1 minute, so... but, on the flip side, it doesn't get multiple saving throws anymore. So, it's just one save for a minute, but you have to concentrate on it, so... I mean, it's fine either way, in my opinion. But, it also doesn't perma-banish. So, because that's like, oh, banishment's supposed to do that, which... This one could, actually. So... I do think, like, both versions have merits, but I do get that the perma-banish was decided to be banishment only. Blinding Smite, no initial save, but the target can make consecutive saves later, and it's now an evocation instead of transmutation, which, yeah, it does feel evocation-y. So you get an instant blind, but they repeat the saving throw at the end of each of its turns. So, yeah. Divine Smite is now I like how they say new Paladin exclusive spell. Please put quotes around that next time. It's not really a new spell. It's literally just, yeah, it's Divine Smite, but a spell. And it works like the spells do, instead of being... Because here, it wasn't a bonus action. It was just a free action after you cast one, so... Kind of weird, but yeah. Glimmering Smite, which was renamed Shining, so we'll get to that later. Power words. Searing Smite. So Searing Smite got changed to be, I believe, a repeated saving throw. Yeah. It's before the saving throw. It doesn't require concentration, and it still repeats the save. Which I think in this version... Yeah, it was concentration, but they still made the repeated save. So, yeah, that's a fair change where it's like, yeah, of course you don't want a repeated save spell to also have concentration. So there's an even higher likelihood they lose it. You lose it. So, yeah, now it persists a lot better. So, Staggering Smite. Actually didn't get changed. So then there's Shining Smite, which now just prevents the target from getting invisible. Which, to be fair, does actually make sense that it calls that out, because it feels like it's supposed to do that, because it ends the invisible condition, but then they can technically gain it back. So it's definitely a rules derp that it's like, yeah, that should have that. Thunderous Smite is an evocation spell again instead of transmutation, I assume. Yeah. That one probably the least affected by that, but that was more of a problem with Thunderwave and Shatter becoming transmutation over evocation, because those were actually used by evokers, and specifically Shatter was really, and both were really good with evokers because they worked with sculpt spells, but now you can't even use them with sculpt spells because they're not evocation. It's kind of stupid. But then last but not least, Wrathful Smite is actually now a necromancy spell, and is necrotic instead of psychic, which that I actually like. I do get that some people don't like the frightened with necromancy, but because it does feel more enchantment or illusion, but I do like that, you know, necromancers can have frightening stuff. But I also like that there's a dark smite now. So that's definitely going to be a fun option to use. Also a thematic option to use as a Oathbreaker. But we'll get to what happened to them in a moment. Hello. Scrolling back up. Excuse my slurping noises. There's the Paladin. So there's Paladin Smite. Second level, you get a fighting style still. What'd you expect? Channel Divinity at third. Divine Sense is still a Channel Divinity. It's kind of weird, but I don't mind as much because you get spellcasting at first level now, so yeah, it's okay. Third level, you get Paladin subclass and Oath of Glory here. Once again, a Sasha subclass where it should not be, especially when Oathbreaker's around, because the weird thing about Oathbreaker is it's actually in the first 3 books, because it was in the DMG, but it's not listed here, even though it's an original subclass, basically. Like, I mean, I will grant that Death Domain, I get that it's not here, because Trickery definitely needs more work, and then Life, Light, and War are the kind of, what I'd call the signature 3. So Nature, Tempest, knowledge and death being delayed, I'm fine with. But, though I am curious what 4 they're going to choose for wizard. I would imagine evocation, illusion, necromancy, and transmutation. Divination could use changes too, because it's a bit too powerful right now. But I feel like transmutation for certain is coming, because that needs some work too. It's the one I can't figure out personally, but yeah. But this one is like, why not give the new Oathbreaker alternative that's not outright evil either? It is more of just a dark paladin, like a true dark paladin. Not just like Oath of Vengeance, edgy, or Oath of Conquest, like you're questionably moral, and also have it be more where it was also more of a psychic and domineering one that has this frightening presence, and instead just have a straight up, yeah, you use dark powers, paladin. Extra attack at 5th level. Also, Faithful Steed, which just gives you Find Steed, and you can cast it once without a spell slot. Which, I think the spell is roughly the same as it was here, but yeah, and it's also actually exactly the same. You just get Find Steed for free, which I do have a problem with this ability. It's really cool, but I have one question. How the crazes is this going to work with Find Greater Steed from Xanathar's? Maybe we should remind wizards that exists, because it just feels kind of weird that it's omitted. And Find Steed isn't even on Divine. It's now a Paladin-only spell. Though I guess we should probably speak about it, because it is a thing that should be mentioned. So, good old rogue, being roguey. That one also has a subclass that definitely needs an update. But we'll talk about that next time. Which, yeah, it's going to be expert classes, but like, and I will say with all the class exclusive spells paladins get, it is funny that they somehow actually beat all the mages in terms of class spells. It makes sense, but because they do need a list of good exclusive spells, but it's still kind of funny to point out that, yeah, they have a lot. Like 7 at least, from what we've shown so far. It's kind of crazy, actually, when you think about it. But if this will load. Come on. There's Thief. There's Arcane Spells, so we're a few down. Oh, come on, load. Oh. Turns out I don't... Oh, it doesn't need to load, but it loaded the right page at least. That was actually surprising. Come on. Load it up. But anyway. So, Find Steed. I should actually have looked at the changelog, but oh well. So, Find Steed, it works similar to Find Familiar from before. So you summon an otherworldly steed. I think it works roughly the same. It's just probably tweaked the minor bits, but it actually has the same 3 damage types, which is Actually, kind of ironic, where it's like, that hasn't changed. But it's Celestial Fair Fiend, which you choose when casting. It's neutral, though I think it should be your alignment rather than neutral. But it is Life Bond, so whenever you regain hit points, it regains hit points. Otherworldly Sam, D8 plus spells level, damage of Radiant, Psychic, or Necrotic, which is actually kind of powerful. So it acts independently if you're not on it. I will point out it would be nice if to have it where if you aren't on it, you can use it to attack. So it can attack normally, but oh well. You also get a certain ability, so Fae get Fae Step, which is a 60-foot teleport, probably easily the best one. Fiends get Fell Glare. Targets a creature in 60 feet, and you get the Frightened condition until the end of your next turn. Not bad, but then they also are once per long rest, so it's not as good once per long rest. But then Healing Touch on the Celestial. Touch creature gets 2d8 plus spell level hit points. It's kind of weird that it's spell level, not wisdom mod, or not spellcasting mod. Do note that with the way this is, you always cast this at second level with the Paladin feature, so you do have to expend higher level spell slots to get better ones. So I do think they could have a thing where it scales up as you progress as a Paladin. Oh yeah, and then it's fly 60 feet if you cast it 4th level or higher, which just means it comes with that. So Find Greater Steed doesn't need to matter, actually. I forgot that. It's up to 1 mile between you and the steed. So yeah, I think I do think having it where the Paladin actually has a scaling one would be better. Where the crazes am I? I might just take a break while it loads, so be back in a moment. Alright, was just doing some stuff while waiting for this to load. Anyway, Aura of Protection, it's still plus Charisma to saving throws, so very powerful. Yeah, it is what it is, but and then there's also only one creature can have Aura of Protection at a time. Something subclass feature again. Abjure Foe at 9th level. Still not a big fan of this getting moved all the way up to 9th, but at the very least it can target any type of creature. You just target Charisma creatures and Dazed and Frightened for 1 minute, or until it takes damage. So yeah. You know what to think? Yeah, it just lost the Dazed for 1 minute, or until it takes damage on a failed save, which fair. It's fair. But like the big thing I have against Abjure Foes is it just feels like it comes so late for a Channel Divinity. And like I will put the context that I do prefer this version over having the original ones where it was different ones had an Abjure option, but only certain ones did, and it only targeted certain things. So like Oath of Ancients had the ability to target, I think, aberrations, fiends, or I think it may have been Celestials, Fae, and Fiends, but then Devotion could get Fiends and Undead, and just kind of weird. So this one, I think it absolutely works better. It just feels light and kind of weird. Divine Sense is also weird as a channel divinity, but it's fine. Though I do also miss the 2 channel divinities, but I think my big thing with that is that it means you lose, especially for the ones that didn't have an abjuring one, it does feel a bit weird. Though at the same time, it's like, yeah, you get the one that you were using anyway, but I digress. 10th level Aura of Courage. Can't be frightened while in the aura. It is what it is. Bit redundant with Aura of Protection with the save bonus, but it is what it is. 11th level Radiant Strikes. I still dislike this feature because it's just some extra damage on the class that doesn't need it. I think this would be better on Ranger, except maybe with elemental damage instead. Also, not specifically Radiant, but I do feel like Radiant Strikes is just a bit too much, especially because it's not once per turn or round. So, yeah, I'm not a fan of it, but otherwise it's pretty much the same. It just doesn't have the Divine Smite deal. It's its own thing now, which kind of always was, but Restoring Touch at 14th level. When you use Lay on Hands, you can also remove Blinded, Charmed, Dazed, Deafened, Frightened, Paralyzed, or Stunned condition. And it takes 5 HP for each one. So, pretty much, hey, you know how you removed poisoned from creatures? Since diseases aren't really a thing anymore. Yeah, it's just expanded upon. Which is nice, because you don't always want to use Lesser Restoration. But, or expansion at 18th level, 30-foot auras. Yeah, it's fine at 18th level. Especially since their pinnacle feature is now a subclass thing, which for paladins is definitely cool. It's one of their highlights, in my opinion. Well, it would be nice to have paladins get their own special pinnacle feature, but yeah, it's certainly there. So Oath of Devotion is the one that showed up here, so there's only 3 changes, so actually there is a 4th, because well, actually, no, Holy Nimbus is now at 20th again. But Oath spells, different list. Also, Smite spells get extra uses now instead of Oath spells, so there was that change, but it's kind of a net zero, where like the whole idea was they wanted to make it where you could still cast your Oath spells and Smite. They just decided, let's just give it to Smite so you can Smite without using your normal spell slots. So you have a free Smite each day instead of a free Oath spell, because it does mean you're still going to just Smite all the time, but you have a free use of it at least. And they only put it one place, which, I mean, to be fair, yeah, it saves words and also makes for better backwards compatibility. But I'd say the backwards compatibility should just be mostly thrown away, with the caveat that they are going to focus primarily on adding back everything within the next, like, year. And just get it where at least everything in the Player's Handbook and Xanathar's is reprinted. Then start worrying about Tasha's and beyond stuff. So it is what it is, though. But Devotion, let's look at the changed spells. So first level, same. Aid, Zone of Truth. Yeah, third level spells got changed, so it's Beacon of Hope and Dispel Magic now, instead of Aura, Vitality, and Blinding Smite. 13th, fourth level spells, they still have Guardian of Faith. I am surprised, but it's freedom of movement instead of staggering smite, and then commune and flame strike, which is the same. Though, gotta break. I gotta love when the dog starts barking. Sorry for that. Flame strike is a weird one on that, but Guardian of Faith is also weird because you'll never use it, but that's because it needs a rework as well to be actually worth casting, rather than just, oh, it hit a creature 3 times and now it's gone. It's so stupid. Just so stupid. So Sacred Weapon, you still get it. It's still really weirdly overpowered, but yeah, because it just adds charisma modifier to attack rolls. It's crazy. Yeah, and you can deal radiant damage with it, which I think is how it worked here. Yeah, normal type for radiant. The modifier to attack rolls was always like weirdly powerful for this. So it's like, it's a bonus action for 1 minute you have this, and it's just like, you just keep it forever. And then Aura of Devotion is back at 7th level. Though Spirit Smite of Protection was at 6th instead of Aura of Devotion. But Aura of Devotion, pretty much the same as before. It's just at 7th level again. But and it's still like, hey, you're Mage Charmed now. So, but once again, it does combine weirdly with the Aura of Protection still. But Smite of Protection, whenever you cast any Paladin Smite spell, you and allies in your Aura of Protection have half cover until the start of your next turn, which I believe is similar to what it did before. Oh, it doesn't give temporary hit points anywhere. I kind of like that version more, where it gives temporary hit points instead of half cover. But, oh well. Both are good. But 20th level, Holy Nimbus. If I remember correctly, yeah, radiant damage, sunlight only. It's for 1 minute. It's a bonus action, so it's proficiency plus charisma and bright light in your aura. It also imbued your aura for some reason. It still does, actually. But you have advantage on any saving throw forced on you by a fiend or undead. So it has that back, which is definitely fun. But I mean, Oath of Devotion, it's still Oath of Devotion. Oath of Glory. As I said before, this should be Oathbreaker, but I mean, there are some changes that I do understand, and at the very least, I can kind of see why. I just think that it should be Oathbreaker, because it's an original one. But anyway, Oath of Glory, Oath spells are the same, albeit maybe just a little bit less unique because they just have divine spells in general now. But Inspiring Smite now works with any Paladin Smite spell, and it's not a bonus action, mostly because the rest are bonus action now. So yeah, and that's why I can kind of understand it. Then I think Peerless Athlete is now an hour instead of 10 minutes, which, I mean, for a purely utility feature, fine. But Eh. Aura of Alacrity is actually part of an aura, so basically, if they, it just increases speed and stuff. So yeah, it's some sensible changes. And then Glorious Defense is still Glorious Defense, and then Living Legend is still Living Legend. Yeah. And I will say, at the very least, it's actually here and got changed. So it justifies itself better than literally every other Tasha subclass that showed up. So yeah. it it gets more of a pass than the rest, but I do think it has the probably the worst excuse for being here. And there's just a better option there that needs it. So, Oath of Ancients. Nature's Wrath can restrain multiple creatures of the Paladin's choice in 15 feet instead of 10 feet. So, yeah, just get multiple enemies. Oath spells are the same, though, but, I mean, not going to complain too much, except Ensnaring Strike doesn't work like a Paladin Smite. That would be a great change, Wizards, that I will mention again. Turn the Faithless, replaced by Abjure Foes. So, it's gone. And it's actually one of the ones that it made sense that it's gone. Aura of Warding is part of Aura of Protection. And it's resistance to Necrotic and Radiant. So, it's Necrotic, Psychic, and Radiant resistance. Massively nerfed from before. So it does have 2 not so bad damage types, but so it's not all spells anymore, which it's actually a massive nerf, but to be fair, this was the most overpowered of them all. Because it also combines with Aura of Protection, so together, not only do you add plus Charisma to everyone's saves, you have the damage dealt. So, yeah. Undying Sentinel at 15th level. Now actually heals. So, choose to drop to 1 hit point instead. Can't do so. And then regain 3 times your Paladin level HP. And you only do it once per long rest. And you suffer another drawbacks of old age. Can't be aged magically. Which, fine. But Elder Champion, now bonus action instead of action. Benefits all spells, not just Paladin. And regaining the use of it with the 5th level spell slot. Which, yeah, all of them do now. But, which is a nice bonus, but you don't really need that. But, you know, you get regeneration. Cast action spells as a bonus action. Which is definitely powerful now that you get a lot more spells. So, that's Flame Strike. Well, Flame Strike being the big one. You still get Ice Storm, of course. But that can be some prime shenanigans with that. And Diminished Defiance. And using a disadvantage on saving throws against your spells and Channel Divinity options. So not half bad. Though I will point out that the fact that it's all spells is kind of silly when you consider that it's on a 20th level feature. You're probably not getting this as a multi-class character. So, it's kind of funny that they changed that. I mean, it's just kind of silliness, but Oath of Vengeance. Hunter's Mark is gone for Compelled Duel, which, fair. You have Vow of Enmity. You never needed Hunter's Mark. But So they get Compelled Duel instead. Also, please errata this spell too. It's kind of bad now because it's concentration, which is the dumbest thing in the world. Specifically, the enemy can hit you and you can lose your concentration on it because they hit you when it's a taunt spell that says, hey, you should hit me instead. Which, like, at the very least, it should be you don't lose you don't trigger concentration on that enemy. Others can break it. Albeit, I still think it'd be better if it's like, yeah, it just doesn't have concentration anymore. Though the main reason to do that is gone with how Smites got moved over to being just bonus actions instead of, or just like on hit instead of being, you do it as a bonus action before and then do it later when you hit and just being weird. But that one also has the problem of being a taunt spell, which has concentration, which, yeah. And then also make it where your allies can't break it. I get it's a duel, but it's really, really annoying that your allies can't damage it. This has got Bane, Compelled Duel. Compelled Duel is the only change, or only new one. Vow of Envy can be moved if the first creature is reduced to 0 HP before the duration ends, and its range is increased to 30 feet. Yeah, it's fine. It's nice to see this stay around. Relentless Avenger. When your creatures with an opportunity attack, reduce its speed to 0. Move up to half your speed as part of the same reaction. Doesn't provoke opportunity attacks. I still find it weird they don't get an aura. And instead get Relentless Avenger. And the speed to 0 is new, but yeah, yeah, and then Abjure Enemy replaced by Abjure Foes. So Soul of Vengeance, unchanged. Which, fair. Avenging Angel, now a bonus action. And it does actually care about the aura now, which, yeah. It does kind of end up being weird because they didn't care about it before, but hey, it is what it is. But you get Flight, Frightful Aura, and it lasts 10 minutes now, which is actually pretty short, but I mean, you do get more uses now, so it is what it is. And that is the Priests done finally. Crazes, it's almost 3 hours. But anyway, this has been the Priests. I think they're mostly in a good place, except, well, Druid's kind of weird, but it's always been kind of weird, to be fair. But without further ado, I'll see y'all next time. Halo Zoo out.